From Cornwall to Birmingham and Johnston and Bexhill, here's Ruben Spire on the radio.
Hello to the Fugitives. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you for having me on.
So, can you tell me, what was it like going into the recording studio when you recorded the Fugitives' very first album back in 2007?
I mean, if I can remember that far back, it was great. That was my first time, recording something professionally. So there was a huge learning curve to be had. But we actually worked with that producer whose name is John Ram on another album like 15 years later. So it was nice to see kind of the trajectory, the difference between 2007 and 2020 or whatever when we next worked with him.
So, can you tell me more about your debut album called In the Street Communion?
Yeah, in Street Like Communion, yeah, it was a very different band than it is now. So it was a four-piece, the same thing, but we had instead of the traditional instrumentation we have now, banjo and violin and guitar, we had beatboxing and we had accordion. So some different instrumentation, different voices, a lot of focus on like poetry and spoken word on that album, which was kind of jettisoned later in the project, like in the band's trajectory.
So, can you tell me any about the tracks on the album that you like on that album?
I really like French Tattoo, which is track 6 on that album. I like the lyrics, and yeah, it's like a little beautiful like love meditation. So that's one of my faves from way back in the day.
They're going to move on a few years now. So, can you tell me more about the album called Everything Will Happen?
Yeah, so that was 2012. We recorded that in Toronto, and that's when Adrian and I just took over songwriting duties, the two of us, and that's still who writes the songs in the band now. So that was our first kind of move towards like a banjo fiddle heavy traditional instrumentation kind of feel. So yeah, it was a really fun record to do, and kind of was the first album that allowed us to tour overseas to like Germany and England, and yeah, so it was a nice little jumping off point.
Do you like to move over to the UK?
Love it very much. Yeah, love your beer. I'm a big cask ale guy. I know that's for old men apparently, but I guess I'm getting old now, so I feel like I can drink it with impunity now.
We could chat about your tour that's coming to the UK very soon, shortly. So, can you tell me more about the single, the album that released called "The Promise of Strangers"?
Yeah, Promise of Strangers was one after Everything Will Happen. Yeah, it was an album of dedication. So we wrote songs for every song had a dedicated individual that was written for. Sometimes people we knew, sometimes people we had no connection with. Like we wrote one for Leonard Cohen. Never met him, but he passed away, and so we wrote a song for him. So yeah, it was just kind of a bunch of personal explorations of our relationship to those people.
So, can you tell me more about the single that it was called "Story of Our Times"?
Yeah, Story of Our Times was the first single off of No Help Coming, our newest album. It's like the third one we wrote for the record, and it's about, I guess, because the album's about the climate crisis. So it's a bit like the chorus is "I was chained all that, and that's not who I am anymore." So I think it's about just like change at the personal level, but also at the systemic level. So that needs to happen for things to get a little better in the world. So that's kind of what it's about.
Well, I'm originally from Cornwall, but surrounded by sea. So, can you tell me more about your current single called "Edge of the Sea"?
Yeah, Edge of the Sea is the first one we wrote for the record. And yeah, same thing. We're a coastal city. We live in Vancouver. There's a lot of talk about rising coastal lines. And so I guess that's kind of the backdrop of it. But the chorus is, "Where's my love in all of this?" So it really is about, a lot of people think of the climate crisis almost as an abstract entity, but we were trying to locate like what's going to, like in Vancouver, there's a lot of talk about, there's a lot of forest fires every summer. So there's a lot of talk about what's happening on the ground. So it's about, what's happening to our families and friends and communities now, as opposed to some abstract entity.
So, can you tell me more about your latest album called No Help Coming?
Yeah, No Help Coming is same kind of themes as those two songs, so it's just kind of stretched out over 14 tracks. So what we did was we tried to like explore the climate crisis from a kind of personal angle where it's happening, and we're also falling in love. You know, people are like coming in and out of jobs. You're coming in and out of fraught relationships. So it's about all those everyday things, but under the kind of the specter of the climate crisis.
So, can you tell me you coming on tour to the UK soon? So, can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, we'll be on tour at the UK from June 27th to July 15th. And we'll be touring all over the country, a lot of folk festivals, a lot of folk clubs. All the ticket links and the dates are at fugitives.ca.
So, is there any venues that you haven't played in the UK before that you're looking forward to playing?
Yeah, Kitchen Garden Cafe in Birmingham, we've never played. The Met in Bury, we've never played. We've never played in Robin Hood's Bay, which is where we're playing, their village hall. So there are some we have played before, like the Waiting Room up in Stockton-on-Tees. But it's been like 15 years since we played there. So it'll be nice to come back to some familiar places, and it'll be great to see some new places too.
So, can you tell me, are the Fugitives independent or signed artists?
We are signed to a label called Fallen Tree Records, which is a Canadian label, but it has distribution all over the world.
So, can you tell me, was it like being a signed group?
It's nice in that it provides a little bit of freedom to uh, it like just frees you up from like some of the administration of putting out an album, and you get to and like some of the finances, and you get to focus a little bit more on the musical side of things, which we've also been self-released and independent band, and it's kind of the same thing, except for you end up a lot of the time doing a lot of that legwork that kind of takes away from the creative work. So it's a great privilege to be on a label. Yeah.
So, finally, can you tell my listeners where can they find the Fugitives on your social media?
Yeah, on all social medias, we're on at Fugitives Music. That's our handle. And fugitives.ca is our website.
Thank you. Let me chat to you today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Ruben. Appreciate it.
Goodbye.
Bye. Hope to see you in Birmingham.
Goodbye.
Bye.